Now we're moving into, I guess we'd call it the health section of Inspire Wanaka tonight. We've got an incredible speaker by the name of David Musgrave. David is a health food manufacturer from Waihi Bush Organics Farm in Geraldine. Now David worked as a research scientist in agriculture for 20 years. Then his youngest son, at the age of 2 years old, developed major eczema within a few days of having his measles immunisation. What happened there was it irritated his skin to a point where for the next 2.5 years he'd scratch his skin and he'd have continual bleeding. And this happened until David was given a bottle of Canadian flaxseed oil. And for David this was a catalyst for starting a 20-year career actually making flaxseed oil products and learning lots about nutrition. Now, 5 years ago, his very menopausal wife said, "I know the dangers of HRT, but I'm going to have to use it. Otherwise, I'm going to have to kill someone, and that someone is potentially going to be you." So, for David, this was a great incentive to broaden his horizons and learn more about hormones. And David will also, he'll be running a workshop tomorrow at the Wellness Clinic at 12 o'clock. So if you really like what he's talking about, I'd encourage people to go. And he's inspired by dancing the tango and using his knowledge to increase others' well-being. That's why he's here tonight with a speech titled "The Dance of the Hormones, How They Affect Your Happiness, Belly Fat and Sexiness." Wanaka, let's give a very big warm welcome to David Musgrave.
Good evening, beautiful people. I'm live, it must work. I really want to honour you for getting out, leaving your fires and coming out, and your generosity for supporting this event tonight. So tonight, I'm going to inspire you to start the journey to take control of your own happiness and your own waist size and your sexiness. The hormones that I'm going to talk about tonight, I call the three musketeers: the stress hormones, the thyroid hormones, and the sex hormones. And these are three guys you seriously want on your side. Now, I'm sorry I'm going to disturb you for just a moment, because I'd like you to all stand up, because I've got a very, very important lesson I want to teach you. It's the most important thing you'll hear all night. So, now I'd like you to just take your left hand, that's this one here, and put it on your heart. And take your right hand, that's this one here, and put it on your belly. That's the centre of your being. Now I just want you to focus for a minute and keep your left hand still and breathe very gently so your right hand is rising and falling on your belly. That's called belly breathing, and that sends an incredibly powerful message to the reptilian brain in your head that says you are safe. So remember that, it's really important. Now the next thing I want to do while you're all standing here and tuned in like that is just shut your eyes for a moment and think of a number between 1 and 100 that describes how well you feel. Okay, thank you. You can sit down now. So whose number was 100? Whose number was 95? Whose number was 90? Very good. Whose number was 80? 70? 60? 50? I won't embarrass anyone else. That's really interesting because there's a statistic I heard about in the States that said if you reach the right young age of 50, the probability is that you're going to live another 40 or 50 years. So at 50 you've probably reached halfway through your life. Do you want to live the rest of your life feeling the way you are now? And if the answer to that question is no, then you're in the right place. The first hormone I want to talk about is adrenaline. And adrenaline is basically drives the fight or flight response. It tells your body you are not safe. That's the reptilian brain in your head. It's constantly scanning your environment to see whether you're safe or not. Now I suspect that you've all heard of the fight or flight response, but I suspect that you think of it quite glibly. Because, did that give you a wee shock? That was a wee shock of adrenaline. Because suddenly you weren't quite safe as you were before. Now I just want to tell you a little story because I've been in a situation where fight or flight saved my life. I was walking into the farmyard with my wife and a couple of other women and my youngest son, and round the corner came a bull with a testosterone animal, and he was coming at us quite fast and with a nasty look in his eye. And so I didn't have any weapons, and so I called my son to go and get a look at the pipe, and I was wearing steel cap boots, and so I went out and kicked him as hard as I possibly could in the nose. It didn't stop at all. So the rest of it's a little blurred for a few seconds, and then the next thing I know, I was pinned up against the shipping container with my hands on his horns and round my waist. That didn't last for very long, it was a couple of seconds. And then he flung his head sideways, and I was just flying through the air, and I was about this far off the ground, and I saw under my armpit here his eye, which was very close, and I seriously didn't like the look in it. He was serious. I thought, fuck, he's really sick. So the distance between here and here, I could think that I could move my body to the point where I landed on my shoulder and rolled out of his path and landed on my feet. That's what your body can do on adrenaline. It's designed to save your life. It saved mine. It's a very, very powerful response. So fast forward about 20 minutes, and we had him back in the paddock, and I was supposed to be talking at a field day North Ashburton, and I was feeling a bit roughed up, but not too bad, so I thought, well, I better go and do this talk. So we got in the car and went through Ashburton, and we just went, the roundabout on the main road there. We were halfway around that when the adrenaline stopped, and it hurt a lot. I had 2 broken ribs and quite severe bruising. And I'm telling you those 2 things, I want those take-home messages really powerfully in your brains. Your body can do amazing things on adrenaline, and I didn't even know I was on adrenaline when I left in the car to go to the talk. So you can be on an adrenaline response and not know. Excess of stress hormones is coming from unhealthy relationships. You can be sitting at your desk and your boss yells at you. That gives you a spike of adrenaline. It comes from physical pain, from arthritis. For women in particular, it's an ability to say no. Women are programmed to look for love, and they don't want to upset anybody, so they don't say no. Really bad news, coffee. That little buzz you get from coffee is adrenaline. And it's okay to have a few cups of coffee, maybe 1 or 2 a week, in a pleasant social situation. But if you run your life on your coffee, your day starts with coffee, and you have to have multiple coffees to get through your day, and then go to alcohol at night to wind you down again, you seriously need to change your life, because that's pumping your adrenaline for a big chunk of the day. Another interesting one is excessive exercise actually raises your stress hormones and can quite seriously age you too. So you feel tired but wired, you have sleep problems, you have a short fuse with your loved ones, you have sugar cravings like crazy, and you have belly fat. How does that happen? Right, the fight or flight increases your heart rate and your blood pressure. That's designed to move oxygen around your body. It increases your clotting factors so you don't bleed to death. It shuts down your kidney function, your digestion. Kidney, that's to conserve moisture, digestion, because that takes energy. and it shuts down your sex hormones, because the last thing you want when you're running a race, we're distracted by that sexy ass running along in front of you, isn't it? But if you look at those factors, you know, those three factors are huge in heart disease, causal factors in heart disease. Kidney and digestive problems, irritable bowel syndrome, does that ring any bells? We're talking about the impact of adrenaline. The first response to adrenaline in your body is it needs fast energy. You've got to run or fight. And so it pulls glycogen from your body, from your liver and your muscles. The trouble is, in this modern world, that gives you a glucose spike, which your body doesn't really need, because you're not fighting or running away. You're probably sitting at your desk or standing in your house having an argument with somebody. So that requires an insulin response to pull that glucose out of your blood. Guess what insulin does? It deposits glucose. See? What do I do there? Here we go. Deposits glucose as mainly belly fat. That's its job, to keep the fat where your body needs it in a hurry. And bad news, particularly for women, that pulling glycogen from your muscles and the insulin response is a very good, powerful driver of cellulite. The third thing that happens as stress keeps on going, as it tends to in this modern world, is your cortisol becomes elevated. And historically, cortisol only happened in a very long, stressful situation from famine or war. So in all those situations, food was scarce. So that's what your reptilian brain tells your body: when cortisol's high, food is scarce. So when food is scarce in this modern world, probably means going on a diet. So what is that cortisol telling your body to do? Store fat. Shut down your sex hormones. That's not good. And shut down your thyroid hormones. So if you must go on a diet, it's actually really, really important that you have a holiday, 1 day a week, when you eat absolutely anything you want to. Otherwise, that cortisol response goes up and you store fat. Solutions, I really don't have time to talk about all the solutions tonight. I wish I did, but diet, one of the big factors that's really changed in our diet in the last 10,000 years is our body evolved with equal amounts of the two essential fatty acids, omega-3 and omega-6. All the common supermarket oils, apart from olive oil, contain very high amounts of omega-6 and very little omega-3. Net result is that most people have extremely high levels of omega-6 and very little omega-3. The impact of that, or implications of that, is that the prostaglandins that wind you up into stress are made from omega-6, which is very high. The prostaglandins that wind you down again from stress events at a cellular level, that are driven by adrenaline, they are made from omega-3. So if you don't have enough omega-3 in your body, you don't wind down from stress very well. Behaviour is huge. Belly breathe. Please remember the belly breathe thing. Restorative sleep is hugely important. So if you belly breathe just as you're drifting off to sleep, that tells you your body is safe and you'll sleep much better. Also important are things like meditation. Now for guys, that means sitting in absolute stillness, trying to approach death. That's really important for guys. That's why we do dangerous things. We want to approach death. For women, though, it's very, very different. If you look at the ancient traditions where meditation started, women's meditation was always sacred dance. So girls, at the end of your day, you're feeling stressed, go home and turn the music up and dance your ass off. And ideally, take your clothes off and dance naked in front of a mirror and love your wobbly bits, because that'll do huge things for your spiritual well-being. You can do it in private or public, whichever you like. some very powerful herbs like maca, ashwagandha and rhodolia, which can be useful. The spiritual things is a big story which I'll talk about tomorrow, but as I've alluded to, the stories you tell yourself about what's happening in your life and what happened to your life in your past, you really need to let go of and live your life here right now. And you've got to develop some spiritual techniques that help you do that, that will have a huge impact on your levels of stress and the rest of your life as well. The next hormone I want to talk about is the thyroid. And the thyroid is basically the accelerator pedal for your body. So symptoms of low thyroid function are lethargy or sluggishness, including the brain, cold or heat intolerance, low sex drive, depression and moodiness because they have a big impact on your brain, and difficulty with weight loss, again. So, how is low thyroid function diagnosed? If you go to your doctor, unfortunately, all they'll do, usually, is run some blood tests. And that tends to seriously underdiagnose, which I haven't got time to go into right now. A very useful thing to do is to measure your basal temperature. When you first wake up in the morning, you just reach out and pick up a mercury thermometer that's been shaken down the night before and stick it in under your arm, and that's the only movement you do until you get the reading. That's your basal temperature, and if it's around 37.5 or lower for several days in a row, you've got a thyroid issue. The other things you need to take notice of, the mental and physical symptoms are a huge indicator of thyroid function, and we'll talk a bit more about those tomorrow. Solutions. The biggest one of all is iodine. Your thyroid needs iodine. And for some reason, which is, I haven't got time to talk about the history of, but iodine deficiency is endemic in the modern Western world. The RDI is 0.15 of a milligram. And if you eat iodized salt, you might come close to that. If you eat Celtic sea salt, you won't come anywhere near that. Yet the Japanese traditional diet, which included a lot of sea vegetables, had an iodine level of 10 to 12 milligrams. That's nearly 100 times the RDI. You mention that to your GP, and they'll probably say yes, but they have very different metabolism from Caucasians. Sorry, no, they don't. There's a few doctors in the US that have started what they call the iodine project to revive the wisdom that, because iodine was hugely used by the medical profession up till about the 1940s when the drug companies discovered an artificial thyroid hormone. So they've done a lot of work, research work, and a couple of studies they've done. They've fed people 40 to 60, remember the RDI, 0.15, way down here? 40 to 60 milligrams a day for 4 to 6 weeks before, on average, people started to excrete iodine in urine. In other words, their body was saturated with iodine, which is where you want to be. You seriously want to be. So that's an enormous amount of iodine. Your body should have about 1.5 grams of iodine in it. And I guess not many of you have that. In fact, I've got a little bottle of iodine, and if anybody wants to see me afterwards, I'll go do an iodine patch test on you, just see how bad you are. But if your iodine patch lasts 2 hours, you're doing really well compared with the rest of the population. So iodine is hugely important. So is selenium, zinc, copper, and magnesium. Really important to improve your thyroid function is to do some detox from your bowel and your liver. And again, I'll talk more about that. Mercury detox. Those amalgam fillings right next to your thyroid down here do an enormous amount of damage both to your thyroid and to your brain. So a mercury detox, even if you can't get rid of them out of your mouth, is a really important thing to do. The message that I want you to take from that is that for mental health, for breast health, and for sex hormone health, you need many, many times, somewhere between 10 and 100 times the RDI iodine. And thyroid issues, because the thyroid actually is very, very efficient at capturing iodine. So if you have thyroid issues, which many, many women do, is it any surprise that this breast health issues are so endemic in the population? You need 10 times more iodine for your breast health than you do for your thyroid health. So do something about that. Now we get on to the estrogen bit, the sex hormones. These are the symptoms of your sex hormones being out of whack, which is very, very common, unfortunately. PMS, menopausal nightmare. For guys, it's the whole prostate issue. It takes a long time to start to pee, that sort of thing, because your prostate is physiological equivalent of your uterus, and so it's very estrogen responsive. You have sleep problems. You have low sex drive. Not good. You have weight gain around the hips and ass this time. And horror of all horrors, for guys, you have erectile function. Dysfunction, sorry. What's causing this? Estrogen dominance. Why have we got that? Well, if you take the signal strength, when an estrogen molecule locks into an estrogen receptor, it sends the body estrogen sends a signal strength of 1. But there's a whole lot of very powerful xenoestrogens outside, chemical estrogens, chemical estrogen mimics in their environment and our food that send a signal strength when they lock on of between 10 and 1,000 times. They're very, very powerful. What does estrogen dominance do? It translates into early menarche, and girls are having periods earlier and earlier and earlier, PMT, menopause, prostate issues, and infertility. How rife are they in our population? Is it really serious in New Zealand? There was this PhD study done in Christchurch. New Zealand males have 4 times the estrogen signal strength than is natural for the male body. 4 times. That's huge. And it's coming from pesticides like DDT, and there is absolutely nobody, no animal in this world that does not have the DDT in their body. That's how widespread it is, because it's very, very persistent. But many, many other pesticides have it as well. Cling film, that stuff you put over the things in the microwave, that leaches a really big dose of xenoestrogens into your food when you eat food with cling film. Stick a plate over the top instead, please. Can linings have PCBs. Canada has banned it, but not New Zealand, not yet. Cosmetics. The bad news is that many of those have xenoestrogens in them too. And the other bad news is that anything you put on your skin goes into your body. So if you wouldn't eat your cosmetics, don't put them on your skin. Please. Do something about it. Some beef and some chicken in New Zealand also has estrogens to make them grow fat and fast, or fast and fat. So if you want to grow fat, you have lots of estrogen. Dietary solutions, which I'll talk about tomorrow. Flax fibre contains a very weak estrogen. When it locks onto an estrogen receptor, it sends a signal strength of 0.1. So if you get your dosage exactly right, it can dampen down the total estrogen response. Because what's happening now is, if you go into a woman's cycle, she comes along with progesterone up high and estrogen up here and progesterone down low, and then she ovulates and they do a beautiful crossover, and the progesterone comes up high to maintain the pregnancy if you have one. With this estrogen dominance, you're coming along here with estrogen up here, and when you get to the ovulation, you never get a beautiful crossover, and you never get the progesterone, which is the happy hormone for girls, coming up high. So one of the other things you need to do is a liver bowel detox. Avoid exposure, so try and put the plate over your stuff in the microwave. Eat organic food is a really good way of avoiding pesticides. Eat lots of brassicas, eat your broccoli. And potential solution, if that's not working, is to go to natural progesterone. And that's what I put my wife on, that's why I'm still here. Right, sex hormones and stress. Stress promotes estrogen production, not good. It adds to estrogen dominance. It also promotes fat gain. And guess what? Fat cells are really efficient little producers of estrogen, so that seriously dumps up your estrogen. Stress suppresses progesterone, which I've alluded to is the happy hormone for girls. Not good. It suppresses testosterone. That's the happy hormone for guys. That's even worse. But I've got to save the best news to last. The bliss hormone hit for multiple orgasms completely resets your stress hormone picture. You think this is funny? Guys, I'm telling you, if you're not doing this for your girl, you need to bring 100% of your masculine presence to her, and she will respond. And she will be happy. And a happy girl will make you very happy. And girls, the only thing that's stopping you from doing that is in here. Because I could get you up on stage here and hypnotise you and give you multiple orgasms. You physically can do it. The only thing that's stopping you is up here. The stuff you tell yourself. The spiritual side of your life. So sort your head out, please. So go home and bliss out and reset your stress hormones tonight, please.